is something that should be an eye-opener for the people of the West. They always worry about disease. And they always worry about physical things that can be studied only. So if they're not concerned for accountability in front of their Creator, then what about the diseases that Allah Ta'ala has allowed to take place on His earth that affect specifically the people who are sexually active with this kind of promiscuity? What about the diseases that affect them? The Sheikh mentioned one of them. What was it? The AIDS virus. And he said millions of people have died. Normally, if you hear of an epidemic that kills millions of people, the non-Muslims, the scientists, the scientifically minded, they're busy looking for how to get to the root of the problem, how to cut it off before it spreads, right? How to deal with the factors that are in place that led to the spread of the disease, not just the treatment of the disease medically, but how to rectify whatever situation has led to the spread of such a disease. Is that normally what we see in here? From the medical field, from WHO, the World Health Organization, and so on? A virus comes up and you see posters with mosquitoes everywhere saying the such and such new virus, you have to watch out for it, and so on. They're very concerned with people's health, as they claim. How many people have died of the AIDS virus? The World Health Organization in the year 2014, their official statistics that they released, in the world 71 million people have been affected by AIDS, that have contracted the virus. 71 million people have contracted the AIDS virus. Of those 71 million, almost half of them have already died since the epidemic began in the 80s. So 34 million of the 71, they've died of the virus that causes AIDS. And 37 million are living now with AIDS after having contracted it. Do these numbers mean anything? Does the spread of death and disease on earth, does it mean anything to people, subhanAllah? When they don't follow the revelation that comes from their Lord, will they at least follow medical science and the reports of diseases? Will they at least take some lesson from death and destruction all around them that has come, and it affects people who are sexually active because of their looseness, because of their immorality? And those are the primary victims of this disease, those who are sexually active on a large scale. They're the ones contracting this disease more than others, and Allah Ta'ala knows best. The Shaykh reminds us that Allah Ta'ala didn't just forbid fornication and adultery, but He forbade the pathways that lead to it. And He mentioned some examples. He mentioned one which people don't pay attention to, and in the ranks of the Muslims, you find people beginning to slip away from the very best practice of Islam, which will protect them from the harms that lead into these kind of evil things we've talked about today. That is a woman traveling without a mahram. People will say, well, come on, it's a very developed society, and women drive, and going from a city to another city is on a main road, and she has rest stops, and she's not in danger like she was in the past, and they rationalize, yet our Messenger ﷺ said, it's not for a woman who believes in Allah in the last day that she travel the distance of any journey without having a close male mahram, family member with her. This is one of the things that once you loosen up on that issue, what happens? You find that now the women are loose, and the women are out and in places where no one knows where they are, no male guardian with them, protecting them and taking care of them. And this begins to be one of the factors that lead towards the spread of sexual immorality. The issue of intermingling as well. People say, well, look, in my culture we intermingle. We have gatherings where the men and the women come and they mix with each other. And it's backwards. It's not civilized to think that because you're in the same room as a woman who's strange to you, that you're going to become attracted to her and then jump on her and attack her. This is how they want to make it seem. This is what they say, right? They say, we're civilized people now. We're not like people in the past that weren't civilized. Now, we control ourselves. And we respect people's rights. And we don't jump on people and rape them and attack them as soon as we're interested and as soon as we're aroused, as people of the past may have done. So now it's no longer befitting that we avoid things like intermingling. And in fact, psychologically, men and women have to learn to interact. And they try to say in societies where men and women are separated, that the men are psychologically incapable of interacting with the women because they have no experience in talking with them, and they try to bring up flaws. We say to you, the people who criticize Islam, and they bring these kinds of angles, is it common in your society that you have offices where men and women work together? Is it common in your society that men and women stay behind after hours and complete projects together? And then one thing leads to another, and then there is a disaster that happens, and they don't view it as a disaster. They may view it as co-workers, friends with benefits. This is just how, we're consenting. Both of us consent. No one's been oppressed. No one's been harmed here. So now chastity is gone. Modesty is gone. And the women know it more than everyone else because the women are the objects. The women, when they're in the company, do they dress like men? Modestly, the man dresses, mashallah, suit, jacket on top of his shirt, layers. It's modest in his dress. When he's dressed with formal dress, it's actually layers. The woman in formal dress, everything's out. Breast size is clear, legs are out. The non-Muslims who criticize what they consider to be the backwardness and the excessiveness of Islamic law, like the prohibition of intermingling, women traveling alone, and so on, these kind of things that lead to a society like the one that we live in over here in the West. When we point the criticism back on them, and we say, look at the corruption in your morals, look at the fabric of your souls being absolutely annihilated through your promiscuity, through your indecency, your immorality. And now you encourage your children at the age of 11 and 12 years old to go out and be as active as they want to be. And they support it and even stand behind them. And this is, you have to learn to be who you want to be and grow up and develop yourself. All kinds of terrible things. There's no more protecting and fostering children. Now, as soon as they can walk, they're being pushed out the door towards, someone else to take care of them. Connections between parents and children are being lost. No respect for parents. No family unit in place. Then it's just decay. When you look at the critics of Islamic law and whatever angles they have, upon careful contemplation, inspection, looking at the issue from multiple angles, you will always find that Islam, as it is the legislation sent down by the creator of mankind, who knows best about what is good for people, you always find that the Islamic legislation shines and that it protects people and preserves their rights and is not harmful and does not cause corruption or take away the rights of the people. SubhanAllah, the last point was that sadd al-dhari'ah or sadd al-dhara'i', to cut off the pathways towards things which are immoral or impermissible, haram, undesirable, is something that non-Muslims and critics of Islam agree to as a principle. I gave this example to my brother here. My daughter cannot purchase the asthma spray without a prescription. Why? Someone made a decision here that this asthma spray could be misused by people with ill intent. I guess there's some way to get high off of it, or some way to use it in a way that it is not the prescribed way of using it to treat the condition of asthma. Although I don't know of that actually being the case, this is an example of how they said, well, since that is, even though it may be rare, that's a possibility, then you're not going to be allowed to get that treatment except with a prescription so we can verify that you actually need that. Why said then, لِلذَّرِيعَةِ, to stop people from getting things which could harm them. That's what the surface level understanding of rulings like this are in the West. So they have the concept of preventing the doorway towards something which is harmful. Yet look how they miss the boat on the actual harmful things themselves. And look how they'll criticize the Muslims who are truly blocking off the pathways of evil with their religion that's been revealed by the Creator, that teaches them how to block those pathways in the proper and correct way. Not a delusional way or an opinion-based way, but rather a fact-based way from the revelation of the all-wise and all-knowing Creator. We say these matters hoping that Allah Ta'ala has made it that our brothers here and our sisters here have benefited, as well as our brothers and sisters there in Pittsburgh. Again, thank you.